density housing. So we developed an ordinance that really focuses a higher density solely within the mixed use commercial zone right now as kind of an incremental step for the town and set that density. Where we sent out kind of a visual about what recent projects in Maine look like. You know, folks, Kate, the assistant planner, was able to do that. If folks have any questions, I'll happily answer. I think I got captured all of the edits that we had chatted about previously. One thing I didn't find, Carrie, was bad examples of higher density housing.
All right, so I guess I
don't know if there are recent ones, really. I mean, you know,
let me go to the board first. Do you have any questions for Rod or any comments?
Yeah, I read through the ordinance changes. Looks like you captured everything we talked about. So
Good. All right, so I'll open it up if there's anyone in the public, and do we have anyone on Zoom that would be?
I don't think we do.
Okay, so does anyone in the room have any comments on this particular item?
Mark Ponziani, 11 Prospect Street, over in the Heights. Did I hear you say that you're going to try to okay this just around the mall area?
yeah,
Are you looking for a perimeter?
the mall, so the mall mixed use commercial zone, it's Park Drive, there's Thompson Fair Mall Road and all the parcels associated with that.
And you want to try to expand that at all?
We do, but with this effort, we're just looking, we know of a couple of immediate projects that are kind of knocking on the door. So this accommodates that. The discussion that the board had in other zone areas, we didn't kind of dial into what that may look like.
I'd make a suggestion that your next step, follow wherever there's town sewer and town water. And that will keep you, you know, in a fairly close proximity.
Yes.
It will keep you handy to rescue, fire, and police. And now, you know, you look in the news all the time, so much pollution, and water problems, and lead pipes, and things of that nature. I mean, and that doesn't expand you out that you can't control. That would help benefit. I think I would shoot for that, and we might even get somebody, if they're close enough, to extend a little utility line, a lot or two along the roads.
Okay.
So that's not the sewer district. That's just me. But I'll speak later for sewer district. I'm not sure if we have to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll quickly follow up with that just to let Mark know and the general public that the town planning board comprehensive plan committee is working on a recode effort that hopefully, Mark, we're getting right to exactly what we're talking about. Larger effort, bigger job.
And focused on that
Yeah.
part of town
Right.
where sewer and water.
Okay, any other public comments, questions, or concerns regarding that first item? Seeing none, we have a recommendation from the board.
Yeah, I move to recommend that the ordinance from Maine Town Code, Chapter 225-50, apartment buildings and multifamily developments to allow for higher density multifamily housing within MUC district be sent along to the select board for addition to the town meeting warrant with a select with planning board.
Recommendation to pass, okay.
Perfect. Sorry, was I
That's okay.
taking too long?
No, I'm sorry.
I apologize for not providing the memo. That would have made it easier.
I should have written it down.
Pretty good.
All right, we have a second.
I second that.
All right,
Okay.
all right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, silence. Thank you. All right, the second item, an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225-33 to amend section F to remove the 10-year sunset clause from non-conforming signs. And do you want to explain that one?
Yep, and I should have prefaced this by saying I went to the select board meeting to give them a committee update about where we were with these. just so they knew what was coming to the warrant,
Yeah.
or may or may not. be coming
Actually,
to
that synopsis you wrote was very helpful.
Yeah. So the sign ordinance, the last discussion, you had Tom Lester in here with you, the code officer, talking about, this is the year that the 10-year sunset clause on non-conforming signs would be enacted, which would have, had him go to every non-conforming sign in town and provide a removal letter to. We had a discussion as a board about the non-conformities will naturally go away when signs change business or they deteriorate or whatever. When they go into Tom to get a sign, they need to conform no matter what. So the removal of the 10-year mandate is something that's being proposed and was supported at the last meeting.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on the board?
So I just want to be clear that those existing businesses are not going to be affected right now. They're not going to have to take them down or change them or do anything. They're going
If
to
it
basically
passes
be
town meeting.
grandfathered in
If it passes town meeting.
Provided.
if
this
it passes the
at
town meeting. Okay.
But that's correct. It'd be, the grandfather status is a legal non-conforming.
Okay.
Anything else on the board? All right, seeing none, we have any comments from the public? Seeing none, I guess, and I'll shut up this time.
No, I'll try and be more focused. Make a motion to, sorry, it messed up. Where am I? I'd like to make a motion to send along to the select board for addition to the town meeting warrant with the planning board recommendation ought to pass an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225-33, to amend section 5 to remove the 10-year sunset clause for non-conforming signs.
Do we have a second?
Okay. I think, did you just say section, I thought you said section 5, section F?
Should be section F. No. I meant section F. Did I say section 5?
We're good.
Yeah.
It says that right here.
Okay.
Fine for F.
All right.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we? All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? All opposed, right? Yeah, thank you. All right, item 3. An ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225-60.19, solar energy conversion systems to allow for multi-parcel leased land, to allow no setbacks between internal property lot lines. You want to do that one?
Yep, so this was brought to you by a solar developer that had a multi-parcel solar site, and when they went through the review process, structures, every type of structure has to have the property, meet property setbacks by code. And looking at something like this, it was a large contiguous multi-parcel ownership. This would allow a 0 lot line for just solar developments of that scale to have a 0 lot line setback
On the internal.
on the internal lot lines. Yeah, the perimeter boundaries still setbacks still apply.
So this a question, and it's very specific to that particular project. They basically were approved with the setbacks.
With property
To the
setbacks.
extent this passes, do they come back to this board?
They would likely come back for an amendment.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the board? Otherwise, I'll ask the public.
I do have a question, and I apologize. I kind of let this one slip from the first time this came before us till now. And it's certainly something we've talked about when some of the solar projects have come recently. That's since we're doing this change, is it a good time to make other changes to this ordinance in that, these projects coming fast and furious. We've got 3 approximately 5 megawatt projects approved. We've got 1 20+ megawatt project approved. Got another 5 megawatt project that will probably be coming back in anytime, next month or 2. I know when we first did this ordinance, the expectation was that it was kind of self-limited. And I think it still sounds like it is based on CMP connections, but also seems to be the potential that there could be be multiple projects that are out there approved that may never get done. Or CMP might finally get on the ball and there'll be more connections, and all of a sudden we've got situation like some other areas in Maine have taken, have these solar farms all over the place. And I just, at one point, I think we asked if we were going to try and get any input from the solar advisory group, and I don't know if they ever provided additional input, or if we,
Well,
I never reached out, so.
well, this one has kind of been a quick take. We discussed it at 2 meetings, which they were invited to. We haven't had that back and forth with that group. I've had contact about doing that. I think there's concern, same concern from the solar advocates that you just mentioned there. Oddly enough, the one that you approved on Augusta Road did not receive approval from CP. For that size, they could do, you know, a very small project, which they may go forward with. That won't even be comparable to what they got approved for. That being said,
That
the
was
process.
the real big one.
No, this was the Augusta Road one, which was the one on Perfect Field.
Okay.
Remote control airplane site.
Okay, yes. You did say Augusta.
Which was about a 20-acre solar farm. So the process would be, you know, ideally you're running out of time. You'd hold another public hearing, which would be for your next meeting. So you'd want to have the amendments buttoned up tonight and brought to your next meeting to then have put on the warrant. The warrant is actually being split this year, so it will actually may cause some, it may not be doable because the warrant meeting is April 7th. You folks meeting following it. Then there's a following it warrant meeting on just the budget. It's kind of general municipal government warrant items like these. And then there's the budget warrant. It's April 21st. I don't know if we could sneak a general one on there or not. But if you have some suggestions on edits, then we should discuss them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, after coming up and bringing it up, I think just if it's something that we can tackle and keep it on our agenda going forward, I'm fine with this fix for the lot lines. Because it doesn't seem like we can tackle it all right now. But I also have no problem with waiting and trying to do it all at once.
I mean, there's other tools, Scott. I will say that the conversation that never really did come up when we were developing the ordinance, but think about how much land conversion of forest farm or what have you do you want to see towards this use? So that whole capacity thing never really did come up because we assumed that it was limited to CMP capacity, which I think there's some truth to that. But if we have 10 applications on the horizon and we see the whole rural area of Topsham turning into one big solar farm, then you have moratorium, you have other tools to be like, okay, we need to pause it and rethink this.
And certainly, I mean, we can't really do a moratorium ourselves, but the select board can take that up.
Right. But I do think back to that comment, well, let's go ahead and get that workshop sort of on our agenda and get whomever we think, I guess the committee to start with, but then maybe get some input for sure. After we get the committee and have that discussion from a couple of solar companies.
Maybe be able to do that next month.
Right. Okay. All right, so back to specifically this particular ordinance. Anything else from the board before I ask for public comment? Do we have any comments, questions, concerns from the public in regards to this particular item? All right, seeing none, I'm back to the board.
Okay, 3 strikes, I'll be out. Okay, so we're on this one. Make a motion to move an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225, 60, 19, solar energy conversion systems to allow for multi-parcel leased land to allow no setbacks between internal property lot lines to the select board for addition to the town meeting warrant with planning board recommendation not to pass.
Second. All right. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none. All in favor? All opposed, all right.
Mr. Brown second that.
Yes,
Yes, that was Mr. Brown.
Thank
That was
you.
Mr. Brown. Okay, the next ordinance, number 4, an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225-18, historic district overlay zone to amend the public hearing requirement for application review. And I guess the only thing I'd ask is, you're not, this isn't cutting off public input, it's just the process is sort of overdone. I'll let you explain.
Yeah, so right now, everything that goes in front of the historic district requires a public hearing. We're just removing the public hearing. There's still notifications, there's still butter notices and the ability to speak at the meeting. What the public hearing requirement does to the town is forces us to advertise in the Times Record. And we don't have an application fee that covers even the cost to do that. So it's really just a house cleaning. Let's have a historic district meeting that has to be notified and require public comment, but not have to advertise on every application. I think anything of complexity that goes to the historic district will likely come to you folks as well. The site plan for the building. So I got double letter.
Any questions or comments on the board?
Rod, about how many of these situations pop up every year?
Not many. Recently, not many at all. There were, previous years, you'd have, a busy historic district commission year is like 6 or 7 applications.
So there's not a legal, just trying to think of why the public hearing requirement was put in there originally.
I don't know why I did
Okay. Just wanted to,
that.
a legal reason.
I probably didn't know that there was the tie to the advertising of the Times Record
Okay,
at the time. And to put it in context, you're really dealing with people doing renovations to their house.
yeah, great.
So the advertising the Times Record is fairly cumbersome for us. And then the lead time to do that notification and get that into the paper actually can delay someone doing the house project. So it is a lot easier for us to administer an application with this notification. Typical notifications.
And the standard notification, the abutter distances and all that
Yeah,
process
that's
is
still
the
there.
same.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, again, I'll open up to the public. Or do we have any comments, questions, or concerns in regards to that particular ordinance? All right, seeing none, again, back to you,
Yeah.
Scott.
Make a motion to forward an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225-18, historic district overlay zone, to amend the public hearing requirement for application review to the select board for addition to the town meeting warrant with planning board recommendation not to pass.
You have a second?
Second.
Which one went first?
Carrie.
Carrie got it first.
Okay.
I was listening.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. All right. This is the last ordinance. An ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225 I'm sorry. 225-17, dimensional requirements, chapter 185-11/185-15, street design and acceptance, to amend the term tax assessor to change to addressing officer. All right, this is a mouthful.
It's a mouthful, but this is the type of thing where I think it takes up a lot of time and effort to go to town meeting to address. We're changing the language from tax assessor to addressing officer. The reason being, addressing officer should be either the E911 fire chief or the tax assessor for E911 property addressing. So when we title it addressing officer, whoever fills these positions can do that. That's pointed by the town manager. The fact that we call it the tax assessor in our code limits it to that person. So it's a cleanup item. And thanks for taking your time to listen to it.
Okay. Any discussion here? All right. Again, I'll open up to the public. Do we have any public comments, concerns, or questions in regards to this? Seeing or hearing none, again,
Make a motion to forward an ordinance to amend the town code chapter 225-17, chapters 225-17, 185-11, and 185-15 to amend the term tax assessor to change to addressing officer to the select board for addition to the town meeting warrant with a planning board recommendation not to pass.
second. All right. You got that?
Got it.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? It's unanimous. All right. So for the ordinances, I'm going to close the public hearing. On the subdivision, we're doing a public hearing as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 6, subdivision Stonewall Investments LLC has submitted proposed phase 2 to Eagle River subdivision, adding 4 new lots on Raspberry Lane, tax map R01, lot 19. So Kurt, you're going to present that? Okay.
So I assume I'm being picked up on this owl here.
Yeah, I would- Speak up probably.
Sure.
You don't have a microphone, but that will capture.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, Curtis Neufeld with site Stonewall Investments. With me is Aaron St. Pierre, who is Stonewall Investments. Next slide. And the,
Hold
okay.
on, we're having a little bit of weird out.
That's okay. He was with you in here a couple years ago to get the first phase of this approved. I wasn't going to go into a long thing, but we do have some new board members, so it'd be good to introduce the project for them. Wetlands were delineated by Mark Hampton a while back. Next slide. So it's in the R2 zoning district. It was approximately 54.76 acres when he started. This represents the second phase of a 10-lot subdivision where phase 1 was lots 1 through 6. We'll build about 410 feet of road to service lots 7 through 10, and everybody's on septic. The plan now is to extend this Raspberry Lane out to 196. The board members who are here recall that was discussed early on, and then decided that it would be expeditious to have that connection as required by the ordinance out to Blueberry Lane. We're back today showing that it would be a dead-end road as represented. You post a performance bond with the town that it could connect to Blueberry Lane, but the market's good, cash is flowing, and ultimately he would like to come back with a phase or phases that would take it out there. That's where everybody wants it. Nobody was really particularly happy with it coming between the houses out to Blueberry. But we met with staff and the peer review engineer and went over this. And that's the direction we're going to go now. Next. Just to orient folks, kind of hard to see, but where the site is pointing is at the end of what's been built for phase 1. And the road just underneath there is that Blueberry Lane. So it's up Route 196, not far from the craft self-storage. And then at the top left corner, that's the Ivanhoe subdivision. Next. So just zooming in a little bit more. These are the homes under construction for phase 1. We extend through to about here behind Raspberry Lane. And again, ultimately, the goal would be to go out. But as noted in there, we're only asking to complete this 10 lots, which was brought to the board before. Next. That's the entirety of the subdivision. It was approved, and I have a close-up if we go to the next slide. So this one shows the road has been built to about here. There's a turnaround on this parcel that will be converted to a driveway. We're really only building from about here to here with a new turnaround. The plan and profile of the road is submitted. As I say, it's gonna come to the end. And we're really just starting here at the last 400 feet. One thing that's different from the slide that was in your packet based on peer review comments, at the end of this, at the end of the road, where the turnaround is, that little oval racetrack looking area is a grass under drain soil filter. That's going to collect water from much of the last part of the road, treat it to the DEP standards. We're hoping we could do all that with wooded buffers or other buffers, but the grades weren't working for us. So it's a small addition. The first phase was built with buffers included, so that when we added this and we triggered the stormwater law, we would be able to comply. All the overhead utilities are underground. And I think if anybody's been out there, you'll see that Rising Homes and Stonewall are really making some very nice houses out there. And Public Works, the reviewing engineers, been very happy with the construction of the road to date. So I think this is a good addition to Topsham. Folks will approve this so we can get next to the business of building and selling homes. Be happy to answer any questions. We did go through the recommended conditions of approval, and those are all fine.
The only question I had was more just related to the peer review comments, and I just circled a comment in the staff review comments that said, although they're not resolved on a few of the comments, it sounds like you've resolved the peer review.
We have a full response. Tom Saucier was on vacation. He hasn't had a chance to reply.
Okay.
But based on our meetings and my discussion on the phone, I think we'll be able to put him to bed pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
I mean, one comment that jumped out at me from Tom's was about the encroachment on the wooded buffers on lots 2 and 3.
Yep.
What's the finding there? And as far as the impact of that on the treatment calculations, because I know that was the big discussion we had initially.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there was some construction activities that went in there, and we're going to prepare, we did prepare a replanting plan to reestablish the forest in the area, and we'll get the new post with some signs indicating where that buffer is placed, each sideline of the lots, so the homeowners will know. Again, this was nothing on any homeowners, because it's just a construction oops.
And related to that, have you guys done any? Have you looked down at the culvert and that flow issue as far as is it working as expected? Have we seen any issues? I mean, wasn't that the big issue is going down to the culvert underneath the railroad?
Right. I haven't revisited the railroad there, but
I still remember your pictures.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to
That'd
take a
be
look
an
at
annual
it.
trip for you. It's like going down there.
Maybe not the snow's gone. I tried the first time it snowed. I was happy to get out to see the big.
Okay, that was more just an interesting question. That's all I have.
Okay, anything, Dan?
No, I'm good.
Anybody on this side?
Kurt, do you expect that the road is going to keep on going up to 196
Yes.
as opposed to cutting through the 2 houses?
Yep. The design and permitting of that is a bigger step. Yeah, Aaron has buyers ready to go, so we wanted to take a smaller step first. So let's keep on.
And you don't necessarily expect a DOT problem with connection to 196?
No, he has an entrance permit in hand down there, ready to come out. So,
Good.
Anything else from the board?
Nope.
All right, then I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns from anybody in regards to this project?
I'll make one quick one.
Okay, please step to the podium.
Again, Mark Bonziani, 11 Prospect Street. And I want to reiterate, those is a very nice home. I went up there the other day, kind of looked it around. And you did say you are going to put that culvert in. ask him that he definitely is gonna go to 196 with it. Yes?
Yes.
That's what he said, yes.
That's not under review tonight, but that's the future plan.
Well, we're talking about the project, so I just thought I would, I mean, you gotta
There's
turn
an
around,
intention.
out you go.
Yeah.
So my next one, I'm just going to say his intentions. So if there's some question that maybe it might not go through,
Well, we just don't have it in front of us.
Right. There's nothing we can control or put in.
gee,
there.
why wasn't that in front of you when that whole project was asked for?
It's up to the applicant. He's not proposing that right now.
But the town allowed him to cut that off, that lower section,
What are we talking about now?
cut the trees off.
Oh, he did that prior to coming in for any applications.
Yeah, but I mean, the town had to allow that to become part of that subdivision.
Well, no, we don't regulate timber harvesting. That was an activity that happened prior to us being aware of any subdivision.
Uh-huh. Okay, but they are very nice homes. The road that they have done, and they've done a good job with that. They've done a good job with the rock work and very nice, but I want to add just one more, bear with me for a minute. You know, you could hit a golf ball from the end of the water line up 196, and you could pick up 99% of the development that's going on in town right now. You know, we've got a trailer park that wanted to expand. We've got two other great big buildings off to the right. We have all these homes that want to go into Pagerco's land. You know, it's a shame that the town of TDI didn't bring the homeowners, these developers in and have a chat with them and say, you know, let's see what it's going to cost to run that water line up through here. And you know, you might have had enough of a bite on it. And you could have taken the other part to town meeting and had the town participated. And we might have had town water brought from Ivanhoe right up 196. It's not the first time Kurt's heard me lecture him about this. So this was my time with you. I just wanted to share that with you. You know, the town could have been a little more proactive because I think we could have gotten more bang out of the buck in the town's best interest on those lots that are being developed along 196. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. I would recommend you take those to the select board. Is there anybody on Zoom?
No one who has requested to talk.
All right. So any other questions or comments from anyone in the public? All right, seeing none, hearing none, public hearing is closed. So I'm back to the board. Do we have any other questions? Or anything we want to discuss before I entertain a motion? Seeing none. Scott?
Yeah, I move that the application for final plan approval for phase 2 submitted by Stonewall Investments LLC, tax map RO1 lot 19, tax map RO5 lot 55, be approved in accordance with 191.10 of the Topsham Code as it meets the standards of the subdivision ordinance, with the conditions of approval listed on pages 2 through 4 of the memo from Topsham Town Planner Rod Melanson on March 16, 2022.
We have a second. All right. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? All right, approved. Thank you.
The board to staff.
Okay. Item E, site plan. Tosco LLC, Laurel Palmer has submitted a waiver request for review for portions of their proposed 80,000 square foot supermarket market basket at 169 Thompson Fair Mall Road. Not road, tax map R05 lot 21D-10. And I guess while they're getting ready, my understanding is we're gonna be reviewing these waivers and so forth. I guess conceivably we could take a vote. I think what we should do is incorporate that as part of when we do final with a vote where we have public input and so forth. So
I agree.
I think unless the board disagrees with that, that's the direction we should go. I don't have any issue with the board so chooses to maybe give a straw poll on how we feel about what they've asked.
So primarily to give feedback on
Right.
where we stand, where we may stand, what we might like to see in regards to this. Okay, I think that's great.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Doug Reynolds with Wall Palmer. With me tonight is Matt Rabasco from our office and Jim Lamp from Topsco, and as well as John Matthews as part of our team. As was just mentioned, we're here tonight representing Topsco LLC for the development of an 80,000 square foot market basket. And we did say market basket, we said that last time. Located at 169 Topsham Fair Mall Road. We came before you back in November for a sketch plan meeting, just to introduce you to the project. And as we've been going through our design and working with staff, we've come up with 5 waiver requests that we're looking for feedback from the board, as mentioned. We provided a memorandum with additional information within it. And I can go through the memorandum and we can chat about it, or we can just go waiver by waiver and quickly discuss what we provided.
What do you, it's easier for you.
Yeah, again, I'll just go through each one and we can have a discussion and we'll go from there.
Okay, super.
Okay, and the first waiver that we're talking about is section 22-27.G.4 sidewalk requirements. And this requires a project to have sidewalks completely across the frontage of of our site. The board has their discretion to allow for an in lieu fee for sidewalks, and at this point, we are requesting that in lieu fee. The reasoning for we can't get sidewalk across the complete frontage is due to the topography and the buffers, undisturbed buffers that are on the, I guess we'll say, north and south side of the development. It's kind of tough to see on here, but again, in the packages, we provide for plans where we are proposing sidewalk from, I can't remember the name of that road. Midway Drive. There you go. There's sidewalk on what we're calling the east side, crossing Midway Drive. We're proposing a crosswalk to our right-hand only drive. And then so we have sidewalk all along the frontage, up into the site, past the roundabout, and then down to the other side of the roundabout, which then crosses on the opposite side. Now, again, as you may be aware, above Midway is a retaining wall, guardrail, that type of thing, where it's going to preclude the development of a sidewalk. On the bottom side, same situation. So again, we're proposing sidewalk, as I just discussed, and then we'd be acceptable to the in lieu fee for the remainder of that. So again, that's the first one. We want to have discussion on that.
Why don't we see if there's any questions?
Just one clarification, I couldn't tell from the drawing or the renderings,
Yep.
which are great, by the way, but I still couldn't tell. You mentioned that between the right-in access and down to the turnabout on that frontage of the
Yep.
road, you would have a sidewalk.
There is sidewalk
on their side.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
Yeah, it's actually on both sides for that section.
Yeah.
So the in lieu fee is basically for that portion on either end.
That,
Isn't-
right, that is not.
There is sidewalk still pretty much,
Well,
if I, pretty much all the way in front of it.
There's absolutely sidewalk. This is sidewalk all along here, we just cross them, again, if there's development coming in over Midway, we give them a crosswalk, come into our site, they can come up this sidewalk here, or they can come in and come up this sidewalk here. If you want to pull up the screen a little bit. Oh, the other way, sorry, down, I guess. You know, we have sidewalks all the way down. We just end our sidewalk right here. And there's just, again, no sidewalk as it goes further on that side, because it really doesn't go to anywhere at that point.
So essentially, the in-lieu fee goes into a big bucket.
So that's that one.
All right.
Can I?
Yeah,
Sure.
Where is the Park Drive intersection? Or Park, is it Park Drive or Park Road?
There's Midway, and then Park Drive would be on the southern portion of this drawing,
So
but I
where,
don't think it comes in.
Yeah,
until-
no, yeah, Park Drive doesn't show
Yes,
us.
Park Drive is further
Further down.
south.
so you couldn't extend the sidewalk? See what direction? On the side that past the roundabout down towards Park Drive along the frontage of the property? On the opposite side of the road?
You're saying have sidewalk from here to here?
No, the other, no, it's the same side that you're on. Is that a gully there?
Well, there's no sidewalk from here to here.
That's correct.
There is sidewalk from here to here.
Oh, there is.
Yes.
Okay, that wasn't clear. Okay, got it.
so any other questions on that?
Nope, good.
I guess if the board disagrees, I'd be inclined to agree with that. How's the board feel?
And just one point of clarification that I'm pointing out to the board, this is not a waiver, this is a procedure within, embedded in that ordinance. You're not granting a waiver, you're making an approval of an in-lieu fee versus the sidewalk construction. That's it.
Okay,
All right, going through it as it's in our memorandum. The next one we would like to discuss is section 175-12.A.3, parking requirements relative to the site layout. We are requesting a waiver for the requirement that of no more than 60% of the parking be located in the storefront area. The reasoning, there's multiple reasonings for our request of this waiver, mainly due to the size of the shape of the site, where the site is deep and narrow from deep from front to back. As we discussed, there's significant buffers and streams on the north and south side of the site, so we couldn't expand that way. There is an existing stormwater pond down in the lower right corner where we couldn't rotate our building and our layout for that, do that. We actually went through and did a number of reconfigurations of the site, looking at the site, rotating the building 90 degrees, trying to get parking in front of the site, in front of the building. So again, this is where we ended up with. So since we ended up at this, we wanted to try to enhance the view of the building. And again, we provided in our package a number of perspective views where the architect went through and based on our grading showed the building and the view of the building from Topsham Fair Mall Road. Yeah, I do. That one's a good one to start. Again, we're here just looking at, the building from Topsham Fair Mall at the right turn in. As you can see on the plan, we show the grading and the berming on all of these. In the foreground, you can see the retaining the knee wall, which is a 30-inch high knee wall. Again, the parking field itself is lower than that area, and then we come back up a little bit so that we can see the building. We want to advertise the building, but what's not shown on these plans is the landscaping. You know, again, this is the scenario where there's no landscaping at all. As you may see, you can go back to that landscaping one. We provided a number of significant landscaping features, major landscaping features, which meet the requirement of the major landscaping features, which are greater than 3,000 square feet. Yeah. Again, we've got one which is about 5,000 square feet right in front of the parking lot. We've got another one that's up to 10,000 square feet, and there's another one in the middle that's at 7. Then we've also included we're landscaping the middle of the roundabout, which would be maintained by us. And as noted in our memo, there's another about 5,000 square foot feature that's actually outside of that 150-foot landscape streetscape area. Another thing that we're also added based on discussion with staff, right in that little corner of the parking lot. We're going to show 2 4-seat tables, bike rack, similar to this one over here. Just wanted to point out, we also got other seating areas adjacent to the building. Right up in this area, this is the pergola area where we have the trellis, where will be outdoor seating for an additional feature for the public. Another item relative to this waiver request. Our parking ratios are lower than what Market Basket typically has. Typically, they like to have 6 spaces per 1,000 square feet of building. We've reduced this down to the 5.5 spaces per 1,000. It's very typical for retail development to be in those numbers. Grocery stores sometimes are a little bit higher. Again, if you've ever been to a grocery store on Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas, maybe you need them. So again, we did try to put as much parking as we could to the side, up the top left corner. We couldn't put any parking in the rear, putting the building up front. There's just too much going on in the back of a grocery store relative to loading and unloading. And again, there's five loading docks back there. And again, it just, the way the store laid out with the front doors in the front, the main access is the front right corner and the middle of the building. Just really works out well for this configuration. So again, I think our biggest effort was, again, providing those flyover sections, showing that you can't really see the parking lot much from the street without the landscape. You throw the landscaping on there, it's going to be tough to see any cars in there. So that's that one.
Okay, there's in italics on Rod's memo, I think it's Rod. He talks about the no more than 60% or whatever. But then it gets into a discussion about landscape features, provide additional allowance of 10% more, up to 90%. So I guess either Rod or you guys sort of explain how that applies to what we're talking about.
So there is a requirement, there's a metric. They're coming in for a waiver on that. One of the things in trying to do this difficult math equation here was, well, do they need this waiver? Are they needing it? So that was my request to them to actually give us a bit more information so we could do that math. So it doesn't appear that they can meet the standard in the code, so they're requesting a waiver from us. But with that said, they've laid out what I would consider a laundry list of findings for you guys to discuss.
And again, the biggest thing of the calculation is you get an increase of the required number of spaces. Based on the ordinance, we're only required to have, I think, 144 spaces, something to that effect. So again,
It's a
that,
minimum.
yeah. You know, that's a minimum required. So again, grocery store can't operate at that number.
Something else you asked for, I think, in here. Whether or not you thought we needed peer review on this. I think that was in this one.
No,
Okay,
no.
all right, come on.
That was the first one, actually, wasn't it?
Okay.
The
Well,
sidewalk.
Tom Erico did comment on that first one, thinking that that was appropriate. And if it was appropriate for them.
Okay.
But just, the cost estimates reflecting the difficulty.
So,
There is a bullet referencing the landscape architecture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last
That
bullet.
actually, so that's
the
to cut and paste to remind you folks about the sketch discussion. I think at that meeting, you probably chose not to do that.
okay. All right, so I guess Scott, you or Dan have any questions or comments you want to make here?
Well, I think Rod addressed my questions had to do with that calculation. So the key part I was missing was the required parking. So all of those percentages are based on our minimum,
Yeah.
not on what the, okay. Because it seemed like this was such an easy fix.
Well, that's what we thought too.
When
When
I
you
did
see
the
the
math.
stuff in that word required, and it's
Well,
like,
that's kind of why I asked the question.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that kind of throws out my other questions
Right.
about amenities for each of the because it seemed like, making a few changes, adding another.
right, we'd get there,
One in, you
but
get there
but
without
you
a
never
waiver.
get there.
Right, okay. All right. So I have no questions about that.
Okay,
I'll let someone else ask questions while I think of my other ones.
anyone down here?
Ran the math and it doesn't work.
Right.
This is basically what it comes down to. No, I think it's good. I like this. That plan, drawing, this is what's up there now.
Yeah, again,
That's,
if you go to any market baskets around, they don't skimp on landscaping. That's one thing that, our landscape architect said, really, I can still do that, I can do more.
Looks like there's quite a bit of landscaping. Putting into the plan. All right, so I'd be inclined to,
I would argue that the middle of the roundabout is a major landscape feature as well.
Right.
We added to the calculation.
The roundabout itself.
yeah.
They're maintaining that.
That's the intent, is that we'll propose that we'll maintain that landscaping. Jim's indicated they've done it before in a number of places.
okay,
My only other question comment is it becomes less important now that the numbers are not very close to being attainable. But that, just to throw it out there, there have been a number of projects in town where we dealing with parking. It sounds like you guys are trying to right out where you need it.
Right.
So this won't matter, but that lot all the way to the right, which maybe will be employee lot at some time, or the overflow for Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
There definitely have been a number of developments in town where we allowed less than minimum parking for people. I know you don't want to go less than minimum, but by
Yeah, no,
leaving an open
that's the way-
space.
That's
that
the way it's
they
been
could
going,
eventually-
is most towns want less.
Yeah, but where you could leave it as an open field, but prep to make parking in the event you need it, but it sounds like you guys know what you need, so.
If I can just add one quick note, Jim Lamp, professional engineer with LT Development. It wasn't we do meet the 90% and more if you go by what we're proposing. So it's that language of required parking, but we do get under the 90% out front if you just go by the proposed spaces. So it's kind of verbiage that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Okay. All right, again, the next one is relative to the required number of canopy trees across the frontage. Again, this goes back to essentially the same discussion we had with the sidewalks. We're proposing 17 out of the required 36, if you based it on for the full frontage. Nope, this one's perfect. You can actually zoom back a little bit so you can see both ends. So again, the area to north of the not right out anymore. The right-in driveway, that's a buffer area that we're not touching. That's gonna remain as trees. And then down below on the bottom side, same situation. We're maintaining all the trees there. So again, we're pretty much providing the canopy trees along the frontage that doesn't already have canopy trees.
Any questions on that?
No.
How many feet of frontage are you leaving natural of the, because you said it's about 1,100 feet total.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how the 17 sits with the.
Well, again, it's 17, it's required 36, and it's every 30 feet.
Every 30 feet, you sort of.
So I just
But then you have the entrance in the roundabout.
Right, and then you have the entrances around the, that's about 1,100 feet, and we're providing 17 at 30 feet. That's 510, so essentially we're about half.
About half.
Yeah.
What type of canopy trees are envisioned, like red maples,
Um,
kind of like what's in front of Target?
We said elm.
Yeah, we just call it street tree for now. We're not, when we submit the full application with the landscaping plan. it'll be-
But just looking at just using the canopy trees in front of the Target area as an example, those grew very fast.
Yep.
Even though they're 30 foot on center, they really fill in quickly.
Okay.
So something like that, even though you're going with less than 36, if you do go with a fast growing canopy tree, that will
Yep.
grow in very
Yeah,
fast.
no, we'll mention that to the RLA.
Yeah, the legend does call out some trees.
Says canopy tree,
Yeah.
elm or red oak, and street tree, elm.
Right.
I just had one question on the street trees. I couldn't tell from the scale. The ones that are there are meeting the 30 foot.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
Assume so.
Yep.
Okay.
Good to go to the next one, or? We will really-
I think we're good.
You
on
didn't
that.
really say yay
I
or
think we're good on
nay.
the 17.
No, I think we're good. I guess I'll make a comment about the comments. It was nice seeing a comment from staff saying overall the landscaping plan is impressive, which is not reflected in the simulation, tree photos, whatever that.
Right,
Previous,
the
yeah.
aerial views. The next one is one where, again, as Rod mentions, this standard has been waived for nearly every development. It's again, maintaining 4-inch and over caliper trees that are existing. And again, where we're regrading and replanting everything along the frontage. Again, we're not, we're requesting that.
We haven't had to deal with a site like this in a while, though, so you folks on the board may not recall it, but typically with the Topsham Fair Mall developments, they're already prepped before they get to you. So they don't have to waive their standard, but this is the requirement to keep as much natural vegetation as possible on the site.
Right, and again, we're proposing to maintain quite a bit, right, the buffers on the south.
The reality is there's significant site work and significant landscaping plan.
Okay.
And the last one was actually a discussion that we had during the sketch plan presentation, and it's relative to the alternating parking bay, island, parking bay, island, parking bay. And we discussed having, a much wider island in that middle one that you can see. Again, we were of the opinion that, if we have a 25-foot wide island with a 5-foot walk in the middle, it gives us 10 feet on either side, and that 10 feet is really much better for the health and for the health of the vegetation and growing into the future. So again, it's a specific waiver that we need, but I think we kind of discussed it at the sketch plan.
So, anyone,
I think the sketch plan, we like that. Thought it was a great idea, looked good.
Yep.
Seemed like a safer approach.
it does seem like a good pedestrian safety.
Yeah.
All right,
So again, we appreciate this time. Again, we're working through our design and it felt like a good time to just take the temperature of the board and you know, say, okay, we can finalize our plans now and get back to you as soon as we can and hopefully get this one on the road. So,
well, since I get asked quite a bit, you have a feel for when you'll be back?
when we'll be back, just gonna check the calendar because we're,
It's all traffic right now.
yeah, the site plan approval should go pretty quickly, I would hope, but it's the traffic. Traffic is the big thing. DOT is reviewing it hard.
You prep the site location permits? You're gonna do that locally?
We're doing that basically through you.
Yeah, so, all right, well, we should start that process sooner than later. Then, too.
Yep.
Did you say the entrance to the top of the map is right in only?
Yes, that was a discussion. Actually, that's a good point. That was a discussion that we had at the sketch plan meeting, and we took that from you to again, there's really no reason to have a right out there. Just didn't make sense if we had the roundabout, because anybody that came right out of there, they could just go out of the roundabout. So we did eliminate that.
All right, excellent, thank you.
Great.
Looks good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're at the end. We have a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Adjourn.
One of us.
So I wasn't sure. So why would-
Oh, she did. It's really private.